Why does Snyder minimize anti-Semitism disguised as criticism of Israel, despite the history that he should be well aware of? Why does Snyder ignore the authoritarian tendencies of the anti-Israel movement, but condemn Trump's authoritarianism for opposing it, despite his expertise in authoritarianism? Why does Snyder ignore the numerous testimonies of Jews on college campuses? Why does Snyder misrepresent the sentiments of today's neo-Nazis despite his expertise on the Holocaust? Why does Snyder ignore evidence against individuals Trump is taking action against? Is it because he honestly just has a massive blind spot? Is it because he's a partisan hack? Or is it because he's secretly pro-Hamas? I suppose anything is possible, but if you read through his interview, he doesn't appear very hostile towards Israel or Israelis. He goes in disclaiming that he doesn't pay much attention to Israel, but also mentions that he visits and has a lot of friends there. So all of this has really been an enigma to me. But then I found something that changes everything. And this is the reason why I decided to make the video in the first place. On March 1st, 2024, an incident occurred when Timothy Snyder was giving a lecture at Yale titled Hitler, Stalin, and Us. Just 5 minutes into the lecture, it was disrupted by a group of communist activists. The demonstrators held up signs and declared, "No class as usual today." They shouted that Snyder is brainwashing his students with lies and slanders about communism and demanded that he condemns the supposed genocide in Gaza. This is despite the fact that the lecture had nothing to do with Gaza or Israel. Snyder attempted to usher the group out of the classroom, taking a phone away from one individual who was recording the event and said, "You don't have the right to film me." A student described the incident, saying, "It seems like they just wanted to shout Professor Snyder down, not engage in any sort of discussion. After a few minutes of shouting, it was clear they weren't going to go away. Eventually, we just left and went to another classroom." I don't know if you guys realize how crazy this is. Just to remind you, this incident happened a year before Snyder said, "I was on those campuses. I know those students. I have a sense of what was actually going on." It wasn't some sort of incredible upsurge in anti-Semitism or anything like that. And also, 2 months before Snyder condemned Ohio State Police for cracking down on anti-Israel protesters without condemning the protesters themselves. What I suspect is going on here is that the lies and omissions Snyder tells about the anti-Israel protests and Trump's response is out of intimidation of being harassed by them. Is it possible that he's simply blinded out of spite for Trump? Yes, anything is possible. But I think it's much more likely that he knows what he's doing. Snyder is not an idiot. He knows how to spot authoritarianism when he sees it. He knows about how anti-Semitism is deeply rooted in the pro-Palestine movement and the history behind it. He knows what's going on the college campuses. He's just bending over backwards to submit to an authoritarian movement, unlike someone like Ahmed Fuad al-Khatib, who actually has the backbone to stand up to them. And look at the lengths that he goes to do so, the interview, the tweets, and the articles. He is literally following the same pattern of appeasement and intellectual surrender that he should have been warning people about. Instead of standing his ground, he's bowing down to the mob that came after him. In doing so, he is betraying his own principle of not obeying in advance and throwing Jews, as well as reality itself, under the bus. He is giving legitimacy to the extremists who can point to him as an expert to claim they are not anti-Semitic or authoritarian. And this is just one example I found of an academic opting for intellectual dishonesty to avoid intimidation. One can only imagine how deep this corruption in academia goes.